The transfer portal, it hasn't even really officially opened yet, but we already have news that we need to talk about.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I am the editor of Eagle Insider, part of 247 Network. Thank you all for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. Now, on today's show, we have a lot that we want to talk about because we're going to recap Saturday's game. I'm going to give you three takeaways that I got from BC's 34-23 win over the Pittsburgh Panthers. You're going to hear my thoughts on that. We're going to kick things off with the discussion of the transfer portal. Now, on Saturday's post-game show, I mentioned after the game was over, I expected within the next 24 hours for Boston College transfer portal news to start leaking in. It's the way things work with the new system. So starting on December 4th, I think that's Wednesday, the transfer portal officially opens. So people like Thomas Castellanos, who's already gone, can officially be in the transfer portal. He's not technically in yet, but he will be soon. Now, after the season ends, a lot of players are going to start going. Bowl or not, they're going to go. And it's going to, in the way that the rules are structured, it kind of forces them to make that choice before the portal closes because it's only a 30-day window right now. So you can enter the portal after the bowl game if you wanted to. Say BC plays on the 27th, but they have to do it soon. So you're going to start seeing names, and without a doubt, it happened on Sunday. Woke up on Sunday morning. I'm looking through Twitter. It was around 11 o'clock. See the first one. And honestly, it was a bit of a surprise to me. That was linebacker Sioni Hala, a redshirt sophomore who had played a bit this year. He played more at the end of last year. This is a former four-star from St. John's Bosco in California. He had, a lot of big offers coming out of high school. And he was more of a hybrid safety linebacker when he got here, just like seemingly every non-Owen McGowan linebacker that Jeff Hafley brought in. And so he gets here. He plays a little bit of linebacker. I think he had some big play, a sack last year against Louisville. And then Bill O'Brien takes over. He sees limited snaps this year. You had Davion Crouch covering that outside linebacker position when they were basically playing two linebackers through most of the season. And he was out there mostly, 95% of the snaps. Hala would, at the beginning of the year was splitting snaps a lot with Crouch. But as the season progressed, his snaps got cut more and more and more. And I'm not sure why. I think Crouch is probably a better player. And he definitely has a higher upside right now. But by the time, basically after the Thomas Castellanos exodus, that was it. We didn't see Sioni Hala other than on special teams those last couple of games. He did not play. BC basically last game against Pitt played two linebackers the entire game, and that was Joe Marinaro and Davion Crouch. No Bryce Steele, no Sioni Hala. So my guess with this one, it sounds like it's a playing time thing. And I'm going to make that one of my unofficial rules. If you're at home guessing why a player enters the portal from Boston College, if it's not a guy that is clearly, established going somewhere else where you can tell he's going to get paid, these guys are going because of playing time. They're going to be looking for spots where they have a better chance. When you look at what Boston College has at linebacker next year, you have Crouch coming back. I believe Cam Arnold has another year if he wants it. He has not officially accepted any bowl, like Senior Bowl type things. And I don't know how bad his injury is. He basically played half a season. So I could see him coming back. But you also have Bryce Steele. He's getting himself back into playing shape. And obviously, honestly, he had a couple good spots there near the end of the season when you just didn't expect him to play. You have Jalen Blackwell coming back from an injury. And I've heard a lot of good things about Kamori Dixon. along with Owen McGowan. Can't forget about him either. So they've got a lot of linebackers. I don't see a ton of change there other than potentially Arnold graduating. It makes sense for a guy like Hala, who's already buried on the depth chart, to go and try to find another spot where maybe he can start. He's big, he's physical. I can tell you, I remember I watched a scrimmage this summer, and I'm 95% sure it was Turbo Richards he hit. But they were playing a scrimmage in Alumni Stadium, and it's split squad. He absolutely obliterated, and I think it was Turbo on a screen pass from Grayson. I think it was Grayson James, and I believe whoever the running back was, we didn't see him for a couple more practices after that. He was a big hitter. This guy, um, that was kind of his thing. He's a heat-seeking missile, so he's gone. That's one. And again, if you were to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a catastrophic loss, 1 being who cares, I would put Sioni Hala about a 5. Like, he's a good depth player. Who knows? He may develop into something, but at the end of the day, I think BC will be able to move on without him. And maybe they'll go to the portal and find a guy that fits them better. And then in the evening on Sunday, we had our second transfer portal news, and that was I think he's a senior now. Senior cornerback Jalen Cheek entered the portal. This one, if you were to ask me if I was surprised, absolutely not. Cheek, I thought going into camp this year had a big chance to be one of the starting safeties. They moved him from corner to safety after last year, and he was getting first team snaps a lot of camp. But then he got beat out by Carter Davis, and then Omar Thornton jumped him. So he this year only played on special teams. He was only a special teamer, which is incredible given that the expectations, at least on my end, was that he was going to play this year. So he kind of falls in that bucket of guys that I watch on this roster and go, okay, they're an upperclassman. I don't see a role for them to start, one of their last seasons that they have of eligibility. This is going to be a guy to watch for that's probably going to transfer. He was like 1A and 1B for guys I just assumed were gone. He walked yesterday at senior day, but a lot of guys come back still after that. So he's going to get a chance to go someplace else. There were no real, like he played, I think it was 2022. Yeah, it was the game against Rutgers. I can remember him playing in that game. And then he got hurt, and then you didn't see him again. Last year, he played a little bit. This year, it was, again, the same thing. I love that he has his own management company, helping him find his new role. That's the way this world works now, I guess. It's crazy, but that's that's the way the cookie crumbles. Now, if I were to rank this one on a scale of 1 to 10, 2, 1. Like, no offense to Jalen, but he wasn't playing this year. I didn't expect him to play next year. They've got plenty of depth in the secondary. This is not a big factor. Now, is this done? Is the portal done? Absolutely not. I expect there to be a lot. I think there's going to be some more fireworks coming. I'm not going to say that I expect big names to leave. I'm just thinking there's going to be more, guys like Jalen Cheek, they're going to go. And yeah, maybe there's going to be a few guys that you're like, didn't expect that to happen. But I would expect some changes there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. And that's the way the portal's going. Now, have they been connected to anyone yet? No. I have not heard any connections to anyone in the portal. But we'll have to wait and see, because a lot of times with the portal, they're established college players that try to keep this stuff off the web. So we may not hear about who BC is connected with until it gets closer, or we find out through social media, or I get a whiff of something. So just stay tuned, because I got you covered here at Locked On Boston College and on Eagle Insider. If you want to get more of that news on BC and the transfer portal, head on over. We got 24 hours until Monday night, 75% off. That's pennies a day. Get 9 months free. And I give you all sorts of VIP scoops. I'm in touch with a lot of different resources on this, so check it out. Now, in our second segment and third segment, I'm going to give you my 3 big takeaways. I'm going to talk about Grayson James, the defense, and a special little wild card at the end. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Now, FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Now, if you're on the Patriots, the live spread changed throughout the game. So even when the Patriots were leading, you could get in really with like really low numbers on Indianapolis taking that game. If you picked it, you're a happy man because the Patriots can't seem to win football games. And so that was something I found on FanDuel. So just visit fanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you first win a $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment one with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. With the NBA underway, I'd also recommend a second listen for you guys today. Check out Locked On Celtics with John Corrales, one of the best podcasters you're ever going to listen to. Check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, Boston, let's get to the meat of. So I got to tell you, we usually on Mondays have Mitchell Wolf on, but Mitch was traveling for Thanksgiving. He's in transit. There's a whole bunch of things going on. We'll have him on later this week, but we couldn't get him in today. So I am not going to renege on more BC Pitt talk because, hey, when you win your third game out of the last four, you're feeling good. You guys want to talk about it. I got to get into some more of my takeaways from this game. Boston College wins 34-23. Another game where BC basically was in control from the beginning to the end. There were some spots where it got a little splotchy, but they were in control of that game. And I have three takeaways that I have from BC's win. Three things that stood out in my mind. If you want to get the play-by-play stuff and overall reactions, go check out the Locked On Boston postcast. I did that on Saturday live from the press box. That's where you get this beautiful picture behind you. I warned you guys, I use these pictures because I record in a room that's all white walls. It's kind of boring. I'd rather do this for you. So this is from Saturday night picture. I kind of liked it, so I put it up. It's empty too. It's what it looked like when I was recording. But my first takeaway, I'm going to talk about the offense. And I want to say, in this game, I thought Grayson James helped bail out an inconsistent running attack in this one. Now, I'm not saying the running attack didn't have its moment because Kai Robichaux had a couple nice runs. Jordan McDonald, and he had, 2 touchdowns. Jordan McDonald also had a 30-yard touchdown run, but it wasn't consistent because BC ran into a Pitt defensive line that was really in control for a lot of this game. And they were the toughest, most physical team on that line that I've seen anytime this year. And that includes, other than maybe Virginia Tech, Antoine Powell-Ryland himself just dominated the game. But, all 7 up front, I thought they had presented a really tough matchup for BC. And there were a lot of runs that just didn't seem to ever, develop because they were just good at that. So what did BC need? They needed something that they hadn't been able to do in the months of September and October, which is consistently throw the football. And that is what Grayson James did. Now, up on Eagle Insider, I have my Pro Football Focus grades. And Grayson James was graded an 89, which is like the third highest grade of the season for any player on BC and the highest grade of anyone that's not Donovan Ezeiruaku. That tells you what kind of game he had. Was it perfect? No. But he hit so many deep passes, so many good throws that he was able to negate a lot of the issues that was going on in front of him. When BC needed big plays, it wasn't the running attack for the most part that was able to provide that. It was Grayson James. He's got a clutch gene, folks. I don't know what it is, but this guy can read pressure. He can move around well in the pocket. And best of all, he can deliver an accurate ball down the field. That bailed out the rushing attack, which at times just was like kind of sloggy. They needed more there, and they needed it from Grayson James. And he, for the most part, delivered. I got to give him credit for this one because if this was anything like what Thomas Castellanos was giving them, BC would have lost this game. BC would have lost a lot of the games they had won. Syracuse, they definitely would have lost. But James provides that spark. James, he's got that it factor right now where he can do and move this offense at a level that I don't think BC ever has saw. Like, I loved Thomas Castellanos last year. Watching him run the football was a blast. Like, the way he could just pick it up and get big plays that, to like the Army game or the Syracuse game where he just took things over. But you knew also that he was kind of limited. Like, he could never throw a accurate ball. And that's why his completion percentage was garbage. That was why he threw so many interceptions. James is completely different than this, folks. Like, what impresses me most is that he doesn't throw a ton of turnover worthy balls. Like, we can get like the statisticians in here, but when they would look at this, they're going to say a lot of these throws are safe throws that are putting only their his wide receivers like Reed Harris and Kamari Morales in position to make those catches. So in a game where your bread and butter, which has been the running attack, was slowed down, it was Grayson James that bailed this offense out. And he did it under duress because as much as the Pitt defense was all over BC's rushing attack, he was also on him. He had he was sacked 3 times, and there was other plays where he had that fumble. There was a bunch of things that went on, but he was able to prevent the big turnovers. He was able to prevent that pressure from that pressure from. Sorry, let me try that again. Second time. He did not allow the pressure to force him into bad throws. He was always in control. He was always making those balls on target, and that was impressive. The second takeaway I have from this game is that the third down defense from BC has to improve. The third down defense, they were over. I think if I was to look it up, Pitt was on fire in terms of just constantly getting those deep third down completions. They were over 50% at one point, and I'm pulling it up right now as we speak because I didn't find this ahead of time because I am the worst. But he had where's third down completions? They went 9 for 17. That was not good enough. You got to be able to get off the field, and some of those third downs, like it was like third and forever, and they were able to do it. Bill O'Brien said after the game, they've got to do better than that. And I think a lot of that goes on to kind of the inexperience of the secondary. Like, I loved the secondary, and I thought Ryan Turner had a pretty good game. Kari Johnson really struggled. But when you look at Kanata Mempfield, he torched them on some of those third downs. And it was because like the secondary they're just not 100% there yet. They're going to be good, I think. But I didn't think they were good enough here. And those third downs, that could have been a backbreaker. And if they didn't have Donovan Ezeiruaku making a ton of big plays, I think that could have been what let Pitt back into this game. But when you have Ezeiruaku having 12 pressures, that I'm not making that number up. He had 12 pressures in this game, 3.5 sacks. Donovan Ezeiruaku now finishes the regular season leading the country in sacks with 16.5. That's crazy. So he helped, but that third down defense was not good enough. Too many easy passes and not enough consistent pressure to prevent those from happening. But BC got lucky there. And so those are my first 2 takeaways. Third down defense has to get better. Grayson James bailed out a rushing attack that was not consistent. And in a moment, I have one last takeaway I'm going to get into. You're going to hear about one player who is not only improved, but has made himself into a household name in the last 2 weeks. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. Now, I love going to theater, concerts, movies, you name it. Get me out of that house. I love just sitting in an auditorium, watching a sporting event, you name it. I like to be there. Now, Game Time is where I go if I want to get tickets. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. They pull out the fluff and let you only get great deals so you don't have to waste time. I love Game Time because they have all in pricing. You just toggle this feature on, shows the total up front, no surprise fees, no gotcha moments. It's all right there for you. And with their seat views, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Game Time has 110% of the difference, 100% lowest price guaranteed. They will give you the difference if credit you up to 110%. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create a code account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. And when you're done with this episode, check out Locked On ACC with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They're always talking things about the ACC. Maybe, just maybe this week, they will actually give some respect to BC, but don't hold your breath on it. Go check out, see what they have to say on Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, my final takeaway from the Pitt and Boston College game has to do with an offensive player that has really opened my eyes. And it was I want to say he opened my eyes because he's played like I thought he would when I saw him in camp. And that is 6'4", former tight end, now wide receiver, Reed Harris. If you were to tell me one player that has seen, other than Grayson James, who has seen his stock skyrocket since the departure of Thomas Castellanos, it's Harris. Harris had like 3 receptions before James was named the starting quarterback. And at least 2 of them were on botched plays where, a defender fell down. Since then, he has been a touchdown machine. And in the last 2 weeks, he's been featured on ESPN twice for those Moss, when Randy Moss is on there on the NFL pregame and they show like great catches. Reed Harris has been featured twice for great catches, one against UNC and this week for his incredible catch against Pitt. He has become the number 1 wide receiver target for Grayson James, and for good reason. All season long, I had been crowing about how potentially Jerron Bradley was going to be that guy. The deep threat that can go up and get it. We never even saw what that would have looked like under Thomas Castellanos because he just couldn't throw it. But now that James can, it's not Bradley, it's Reed Harris who has taken that advantage. Now, I could tell you, I saw him at camp. He was fantastic. Bill O'Brien has been singing his praises all year long. And if you don't know who Reed Harris is, this is a kid that came in as a quarterback from the state of Montana. Now, if you were to tell me any recruits from the state of Montana to play at Boston College, I'd buy you a beer because I don't think there are any. I think he's the first one. So he comes in and he wowed Jeff Hafley last year. I know that too. But he blew up this past summer. And when I saw him play for under Castellanos, I was a little disappointed to see that he basically turned into the third tight end on most of the sets because all they could do was try to run the ball. He's so much more than that. And we're seeing it being unleashed under Grayson James here in the last couple of games of the season. He is a lot of fun to watch. He's big. He's physical. He's got good hands. He's doing everything you would want out of your wide receiver. And that's not a knock on Lewis Bond either, who is still a pass catching machine, one that drove me crazy that last game when he had that 4th down catch, and it seemed to be keep going backwards instead of forwards, but that's here and there. But he's a tough SOB too because he got plowed on one of those big passes. But it's Reed Harris who has been making those big plays. And so my final takeaway is BC's got something special there with him. He's not going to be the same kind of volume, juking and juking and going crazy kind of wide receiver that Zay Flowers is, but he gives you a skill set that BC desperately needs. You can get your volume wide receivers elsewhere. You got Lewis Bond. He can do that. But it's going to be Reed Harris that makes those spectacular catches week in and week out. And his bond with, not Lewis Bond, James's bond with Reed Harris has been so incredible so far. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with him because I think he's going to be a real asset moving forward. Now, on tomorrow's show, we're going to talk more portal news because I'm sure there's going to be more breaking. We'll get more info on what could be potentially coming down the pike for the bowl and a whole lot more. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please, it would mean the world to me if you liked and subscribed to our episode on Locked On Boston College on YouTube. Recommend us to your friends and family. Tell them about Locked On BC. Hopefully they will listen to me talk about Boston College 5 days a week because I'm the only podcast that does it. You hear about folks that do a weekly podcast. I do it every day because I love talking about it and I love you guys enjoying it. I want to give you guys what you want. So hopefully you enjoy it. Tell your friends, tell your family. We'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every